A Better Being podcast hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, hosting solo today, but you all know that I am never alone. So I am delighted to be joined by my friends, Angela and Michael. We are going to have a really great conversation today on the choice to go sober. So before I take too much of this time talking about what we're going to talk about, let me first welcome Angela and Michael to the show. Thank you, both of you, for joining the Be a Better Being podcast. What is happening in Peoria, Illinois these days?
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's like low 80s. Fall is kind of around the corner. So we're just enjoying the tail end of summer.
Love it. And what is this, officially a year and a half that you've been there now?
Year and approaching 9 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope. Nice. Well, so I know Angela because I used to work out at a gym called True Fit here in Colorado, and she was a trainer there. And as I often do, I eavesdrop on what trainers are doing and saying with their clients. And at the time, I was teaching the on-site version of the U Revolution program for Denver Public School employees. And we used to do an on-site fitness component. And I was like, oh, this girl sounds like me. Like everything she's telling her clients, that's what I tell my clients. We are so aligned with our beliefs and how we teach and coach. I wonder if she would be willing to teach my fitness classes. And so, I mean, I don't think we'd ever even introduced ourselves. And I just asked you, I said, hey, I'd like to talk to you sometime. Is that how that went?
That's exactly how that went. Yeah. That was actually in my professional career. It was the greatest compliment that I ever received, was being asked to be part of a fitness program from someone else. So yeah, thank you.
Well, yes, thank you. As we all know, it worked out fabulously. And you still do that. So COVID obviously changed a lot of things for everybody. And in the middle of all that, the two of you decided to make a big jump and leave Colorado, move to Illinois. Michael, you also are you are also a trainer, just not a physical personal trainer. So tell us a little bit about specifically what you do.
Yeah, so I do leadership development and sales training and coaching. I was on my own for a number of years. And then when we made this move to Peoria, travel was a little bit more challenging to get to where I needed to be. Missed being around her. And so I walked away from that on my own business and then joined a bank, still doing the same things, leadership development, coaching, sales training, those kind of things. But now work for a Fortune 500 bank where I don't have to travel and can work remotely. So
that is fantastic. I love how you both have really just taken the opportunity to pivot in your lives, right? I know, Angela, you envisioned always being a trainer at a gym. And even when that shift to COVID happened and not really unknowing how you were going to do that, it was scary, but you have done it very successfully. Tell us a little bit about what that transition and pivot look like and how you go about continuing to train your clients today.
You know, you bring up such a great point. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm very, very, very extroverted, and being in a gym environment, feeling that inertia, being around all of those people, that is home for me. So when pandemic happened, I kind of lost a lot of my identity. And a girlfriend of mine said, hey, if I give you a computer, will you do online classes? And I'm like, oh my God, in front of a camera, that's so intimidating. I would hate that. And I did it anyway. It was a lot less scary than I thought it would be. And it ended up working out for me better long-term. So I still get the extroverted part of me that gets to talk to my clients every day and train them every day. It's all through Zoom. That's okay. And I have balance. I get to be with this guy every day. I get to be with the animals every day. So for a person who never imagined a work from home lifestyle, this is a perfect fit for me. So that is how my business operates 99% of the time, through Zoom still.
That's amazing. I love it because I think so many of us, like me too, right? We get so accustomed to doing things the way we do it, the way we're comfortable doing it. And then when that option is taken away, we're either going to sink or swim.
Exactly.
One or the other. For maybe a little bit, we're going to tread water, and then it really is going to go one way or the other. So that I love that you have figured out how to swim, because I know your clients get so much value from you. And even though it's not that in-person connection anymore, I think sometimes you get even maybe a different or a deeper connection when it's not that constant in person.
Hey, you do. You're absolutely right. And thank you. And if you'll remember, you were one of those people at the very early stage of the pandemic who said you have a big opportunity in front of you to figure out what you're going to do moving forward. You can do this. I'm assuming you remember that. That was a big factor in my success. Yeah. You were a huge part of
Well,
that.
I know we had a lot of conversations about it. And there's, my own personal experience having been a trainer at a gym and knowing that when you're an employee, you don't get what you are worth. And I know, as people probably have maybe by now listened to my episode with Brandon, I know what trainers are worth. And I hate it when they don't get paid anywhere close to what they're worth, because the gym is taking all their money.
Mhm.
Right. So anytime I can nurture somebody and steer them in a direction where I know they can earn way more of their value because I see the value in them, I am going to do it. And I'm really happy that I was got to be part of that process for you. So,
Me too. Me too.
yeah. So Michael, tell us a little bit about why you moved from Colorado to Illinois, and all the different changes that maybe also have started to creep into your mind about things that you and Angela maybe did want to do differently. Because I know I started out telling the audience we're going to talk about the choice to go sober. We haven't even gotten anywhere close to that conversation yet, but we're going to get there, I promise, because this is all part of the groundwork.
Yeah, it started with the pandemic. Angela and I woke up one day and we were both, our calendars went away, right? We didn't have any work. I was independent, she was independent. And then by pivoting to the new world, going virtual, adapting and surviving, I think it created the environment for us to really think about not what's important, but what's important to us and what's important to me. And what was important to me, my marriage, our family life, those kind of things. And I would say before the pandemic, I was all about billable hours. I was all about growing my business. I was all about a bank account. And when the pandemic hit and we had some additional financial pressures living in Denver, we got up and running pretty quickly, but there was still that gap and there was still that added pressure. And so Angela turned to me one day and said, "Hey, would you ever be interested in moving to the Midwest?" And I was born outside of Chicago. And I said, "Well, would you consider Peoria, Illinois?" And she said, "What's a Peoria, Illinois?" I had been here 20 years ago. I had done a lot of consulting work kind of in the area, fell in love with it. And so I said, "Hey, I think that we could use a fresh start. I think we could use a slower lifestyle, smaller town, change our focus a little bit." And so we booked a couple of plane tickets, flew to Peoria, absolutely fell in love with it, found the house we were looking for, and 3 months later we were here. So directly to answer your question, I think that in going through what we went through, and it does lead to our topic eventually, right? It really was prioritizing what was important to me, her prioritizing what was important to her, and we got really lucky that a lot of it matched up. So that was kind of the story that brought us here. But from the decision of, I think we should do this, to the time we were packed up and went, 2 months?
It was 60 days.
60 days.
It was
That's
fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was really fast.
Yeah. Well, and that was just the nature of what was happening in general with people moving, right? And so, if anyone can go back to that time, it was everybody in that situation, it was always very fast for them. Let's go back to what that lifestyle in Colorado, or at least for you all together as a couple, what that lifestyle looked like. And in your evaluation of, we could use a slower and a different kind of lifestyle. Let's start to get to our topic and talk about that.
Okay.
Lifestyle in Denver. So we love to cook and we love to entertain. That is our specific love language. And so all of the things that surround food and talking and music and being with other people, that was our thing. And so when we talk about what slowing that down looked like, our work schedules were very challenging in that I had an hour commute one way and worked 10 to 13-hour days. And he was on the road. This is at the tail end of 2019. And he's on the road. And so when we were able to be together limited amounts of time. So then inviting other people into that became even more challenging. And so when we say slow it down, it was not spending my time commuting, not spending my time away from him, not spending our time away from home. All of our time was spent not together and not in our house. So we really loved the entertainment piece. So we cooked a lot, we hung out a lot. Friends over, going out to restaurants was a big deal for us. Meeting friends at restaurants, whether that is brunch, happy hour, lunch, dinner, all of the above. We love exploring new foods, getting new ideas for things to make at our own house, and pairing cocktails with all of those things. And we got very, very, very good at it. So that was our life, I think. Did I cover most of that?
Yeah, I would say that everything was a celebration.
Yeah.
And so if we were with friends, if we were with family, if we were with each other, it was a celebration. And how do you celebrate? Well, you need a bottle of wine. And so, hey, we're going to make dinner. Let's open some wine. Hey, we're having dinner. I picked the perfect wine. Wow, that dinner was great. Let's celebrate with some more wine. And I don't even think we noticed it over the years, but the celebration piece kept going up, although everything else stayed the same. And so it was just more and more of that. And then when the pandemic hit, I wasn't traveling anymore. She wasn't putting in 13-hour days. So we had a lot more time to fill. And that was where I think things started to blur a little bit, let's say.
Yeah. So we sort of helped that train kind of fall off the rails, but we didn't really know that we were helping it do that at the time. We can look back at it now and say, we get it. But then we're like, oh,
yeah,
let's have a cocktail then.
Yeah,
okay.
we wouldn't drink until work was done. And during the pandemic, sometimes work was done at 10 in the morning. But work's done for the day.
But
so
work is done.
Reach for a cocktail. And so that was the cycle we got into.
And as you were getting into that cycle, I mean, were you noticing your physical, mental, and emotional well-being being impacted in any way? Or was this just, hey, this is just what we do? And
a lot of it was, this is just what we do. And so what you don't realize, what I specifically did not realize was when I'm having a hard day and work ended early, I could have a cocktail to celebrate that I had a tough day and now I'm done with it. So that used to be at 7 o'clock at night. Then it became 5, then pandemic, then it became 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I knew that it was happening, but at that stage, I didn't think it was a bad thing. And I hate to use dogmatic statements. I didn't think it was an unproductive thing. I didn't necessarily think it was an unhealthy thing. And that was, looking at it now, being a personal trainer, helping people live better lives and be a better version of themselves. I knew I wasn't upholding what I was teaching others to do. So it was do as I say, not as I do. That's what I was doing. And I think that's when we really got great at, we'll call it hiding. We're just going to call it hiding. Mm-hmm. And that point is going to come up later. We were still very high functioning. We were getting all of the things that we needed to get done every day. We are still talking to each other in a loving and caring way. We're still problem solving. We're still working. We're still doing things. So we didn't realize that it was negative at that time.
Yeah, and I would say that, when we looked at people that we thought had drinking problems, well, we weren't doing those things. We weren't missing work. We weren't getting sick in the morning. We weren't hungover. So we couldn't have had a problem, right? And so I think that masked a lot of what was going on, because how it's portrayed in media and in social circles, that we weren't that. We were highly functioning. So what's the problem?
yeah. And, I think to your point, Angela, and you and I have talked about other topics, you and I both, and Sasha and I have talked about it with the food issues. And I just had a great conversation with somebody else, a whole different kind of topic, but as the coach, the trainer, not walking the walk, right? Talking the talk, not walking the walk. Eventually that makes you feel like a fraud.
Yes.
You feel very yucky inside. You're very conflicted, right? You're
Guilt.
hiding.
You're
fake,
guilty.
guilt.
Mhm.
Yes, all of that, which eventually is going to show up in some way for someone. Somehow it's going to manifest. So, at what point? And let me ask: was it one of you first brought it
Yeah.
to the awareness, and then the other had to come around? Where you? Oh, I see a lot of laughing and
Yeah.
going on here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go to that. Let's
Yeah.
go to that point. Like you wake up one day and light bulb goes off.
So, yes, I think I was the one that brought it up. And we have an internal dialogue, right? And we think about a lot of things and we talk to ourselves about a lot of things. And we keep it just as that, as internal dialogue. And so in 2021, we moved in January. My parents followed. They moved here in March and they lived with us for 2 months. So they moved out beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May. Michael was on the road for more of 2021 than he was home. So I was in a new neighborhood in a gigantic house, did not know anybody, and I have access to alcohol. I have animals. I have to take care of me, the house, the animals, and he's gone. And so the moment where I really knew I was having a hard time, I had been having anxiety, which I don't have. This is not a thing that is in my life. I don't have it. And every day I'm waking up and I'm struggling through the day. I feel uneasy. I know that something's wrong. And at that moment, I don't want to talk about the thing that's wrong, although I know that it is wrong. And I had to call my parents at 11 o'clock in the morning to go to the grocery store for me to pick up 4 things at the grocery store because I was having such a hard time and could not go to the grocery store. So my anxiety had gotten so bad that I couldn't go to the grocery store that is a mile from our house. And that was a tough moment. And it was like, okay, we're going to start talking about this now. So out loud, after Michael had gotten home, I said, I had a tough time when you were gone. And I am a very high functioning person and I couldn't make it to the grocery store. I think that I'm having trouble drinking. I'm having trouble not drinking. Let me put it that way.
We were really good.
We were really good at drinking. Really, really good. Nothing to be proud of, but we were very good at it. And I said, so I think we need to start cutting down. I know I just need to get a handle on it. And part of that was to see, is this really impacting my life in the way I think that it is? And at that time, it was still kind of unknown, even though my gut feeling said, this is where your problem exists. I don't want that to be the place that it exists. So I'm going to push that as far as I can for as long as I can to not have to admit that that is indeed it. So that was the moment, one very, very, very defining moment where I was really struggling. And I did not tell my parents why. They said, whatever it is that you need, just tell us what you need. We'll bring it over. And it was that easy. So that was where we kind of opened up the dialogue saying, how do you feel like we're doing? Right? How do you feel like you're doing? And one of the things that came out of that conversation was, I don't like lying on the paperwork at the doctor's office. I said that. I don't like that. And then I think that was a floodgate that we opened at that stage. Would you?
Yeah, I would say I was in denial at that point, because she was bringing this up, and I'd say, yeah, we drink wine, big deal. But I've cut back on cocktails. I've cut back on this, and I only have this type of drink once a week, and I used to do that a lot more, and so I was justifying a lot of it. But I got to say, when she said that, I'm tired of lying on the intake form when I go to a doctor's appointment, that hit home for me because I was doing that. I hated it, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, if I can't tell the truth on a form, there might be something here. There might be an issue here. And so I think that's when we started trying to cut back. That's when we started talking about it more, saying, okay, what do we do? And we had no clue.
And I can guarantee there are many people listening who are like, I lie on that form too.
Yeah.
I know it.
Yeah.
Right.
I did for years.
And that's the thing is when you finally get honest and cut the bullshit, sometimes it's yucky.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
very
And
yucky.
it is a yucky reality. And then it's like okay. And to your point, Angela, this is something you guys enjoy doing and you connect socially, right? And it's been your life. And I don't want this to be the issue because then I kind of have to do something about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And,
because
and
that
here's-
inherently means that you're going to be missing out. In our brain, we interpret it as if this goes away, we miss out. And we could not be farther from the truth by saying that.
But we didn't.
But we didn't know that.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And so you have this conversation. Do you just like quit cold turkey? Do you like, oh, we'll just cut back and only drink at 5 p.m.? Or what did that progression look like?
You want me to do?
Yeah.
So in early summer, we're like, hey, okay, we need to do less. And so less for us, this is no longer embarrassing, but less for us was 2 bottles of wine a day, not 3. And that for us was over a 5 or 6 or 7 hour period. We get a prep dinner together, we make dinner together, we sit down to dinner together, and then there's after dinner. And we were not TV people. We get to hang out. We get to enjoy all of it. So that went from 3 to 2. So that's where we started. The next part was we started reading articles about sobriety. What does that look like? I've heard the term a lot now, sober curious. I had never heard that before. We bought books on how, what does that mean? It's kind of like the how to get sober for dummies. Everywhere that we could find information, we did. And Michael found an app called Cutback Coach. And so he signed up for the app and I read a ton of books. And I'll throw this one out there. The one that was the most helpful for me was a book called Living Sober. So we started there. So we had graduated to drinking every day for as long as we were ever together, to having sober days, which at first are kind of exhilarating. And then sober days become hard. We could champion having sober days. A sober weekend was a big leap for us. That meant for a weekend for us was Saturday and Sunday. So no drinking for a weekend. Those were really hard and we didn't love it, but we did it. And then you signed up for Cutback Coach at the beginning of August-ish.
Yeah, last year. And so Cutback Coach, basically it sets a goal and it allows you to cut down, but you have to log every drink you have. So you have a goal, and as you have it, you send in something. And it didn't stop me from drinking. It showed me what I was drinking. And it forced me, whether I told the truth or I lied, I knew what I was putting in there. And so it really, I don't know, the best disinfectant is sunlight. It just showed me what was really happening. And what we found was when we were apart, when I was traveling and she was home, once we made that commitment, not drinking was fairly easy. When I was on the road, traveling, no big deal. Right?
We get A+,
Yeah.
like A+.
No big deal. It was when we were together. And it was because that's what we did. And that's what we were known for. And that's what we enjoyed. And then, so now here I am thinking about a career change that's going to keep me home and not travel. And then what do we do about it? You know, because I think my travel schedule and her being on her own when I was gone, that was the cool little Band-Aid, but it didn't heal anything. And so that's what we had to face.
Well, that's such an interesting dynamic because I think for a lot of people, they would think, oh, well, while you're separate is when it would be really hard because you don't have that support to help you not drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're together, it's like, no, we can do this together. But for you, it was the exact opposite. And that is because it was such a part of your identity as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
But it also sounds like you were both, once this decision had been made, were you both very much on the same team helping each other? Or was there ever like, oh, come on, a drink today won't matter even though it's Saturday? Or was there any of that? Because I know you and I, Angela, we talk a lot about, saboteurs in our lives and people are trying to make changes and there's somebody who's going to sabotage that effort.
I think that we shared in equal sabotage, but not, and it's hard to say the word sabotage and not malicious in the same sentence. But when you're talking about the person that you care about most in this world, at times it felt like if I'm going to have a moment of weakness, then I want to be able to have somebody there with me. And that's awful to say because I know that I'm impacting him too. It was always, 2 yeses and 1 no is sort of how we have done a lot of our decision making in life. It's 2 yeses or 1 no. If it's a no, we have to figure it out and find a different path. And so during the summer and into the fall, we were struggling. And again, looking back, that struggle was really, really, really hard. It was a really hard 5 months to get through, to have sober days, not sober days. We championed them together. We fell off together. We got back on together. So we had our own sabotaging going on, mostly because we didn't want to be that. We didn't want to be the people that had to not drink. And we knew that was coming. We knew that was coming. And that part sucked. So it's like, well, then let's get through this. Let's figure out a way to get through the sucky together. And I think that was when our conversations really changed. And then we started making lists of our fears. What are we afraid of? Why is this hard? We started reaching out to our sober friends and asking them how they did it. What were the biggest challenges that you faced? So we had a huge bucket.
Yeah.
And we talked about all of them without judgment, without fear of what the other person would say or do or feel or facial expression, their reaction. And that, I think, was one of the big turning points, was we could talk about the feelings that made us feel the most vulnerable and scared. And once we hit that point, we didn't know it, but we started to get stronger.
Yeah, I think that.
And just for context, this is summer and fall of 21, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So summer and fall of 2021. So very early in this journey and this progression and working through it together. And now we're headed into football season. We're headed into the holidays. We're headed into, all the things, right? All the things.
All the things. And I think one thing, back to your question about, sabotaging or being strong for each other, the key was we each made the decision to stop drinking separately. We made it the same week, but I was out of town. She was here. And when I came back from my trip, she sat me down and she said, Michael, I made a decision. I need to let you know something. And I said, okay, good, because I've made a decision that I need to talk to you about. It was the same decision. She said, I stopped drinking 4 days ago. I'm done. And I said, I stopped drinking yesterday and I'm done. And it really was a conscious decision for both of us. And so then since I didn't make the decision for her and she didn't make the decision for me, that we owned the decision, then it was a lot easier, and I'll just speak for myself, to be vulnerable, to say, I don't know what this looks like and I'm really scared and I need your help. And so to have that support, then it was okay if I was vulnerable. It was okay if I failed. It was okay, whatever. And we haven't made it yet. We'll never make it. We're making it. We still have these conversations almost on a daily basis. And so that was key, I think, looking back, saying I had to make the decision for myself. She had to make the decision for herself. And thank goodness we both made that decision at the same time.
Yeah. And how does that look then socially and with your friends and family networks? Do you just kind of be that, no, I just don't want to drink today? Do they notice? Do they point it out? Is it hey, we're not drinking? What did that look like?
Well, I think that is a great question because we don't really know. We don't have a ton of friends out here. We don't have a social network out here. A lot of that was because our challenge list was, how do we go to baseball games? How do we go to movies? How do we socialize with neighbors? How do we do all of these things without drinking? We don't know. So we're not doing them. That's it. We can't do them right now. We'll figure it out, but we can't do them right now. And so the Living Sober book that I read, the most important piece and takeaway from there was, you're not saying no to the thousands of drinks in your future. You're only saying no to the next one. You're only saying no to one. And so my very, very good friend, Melissa, said, here are all the things that were challenging for me. I don't go anywhere without having a drink, without having a soda water or kombucha or Coke, whatever. So always have something. If that was your security blanket, then do it, but do it with something else. So we haven't really had to experience it with our friends and family because it's my mom and dad and it's us here. I can, as far as answering how they all handle it, our entire network start to finish, was shocked when we told them. They were shocked that we had a problem. They were shocked that we were talking about it.
They tried to convince us we didn't.
We did have people that say, "Oh my God, you guys are fine. You don't need to worry about it." And so the great thing was we moved away. We didn't have a lot of the challenges we would have had in Denver if we had made this decision in Denver. So everybody's been really, really supportive. And like I said, every single person that we told said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize you had a problem. And congratulations are the things that we can do to help support you along the way."
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that another mindset shift, we would tell people like we were ashamed, embarrassed, like we were weak. And I think it was Angela that said one Saturday morning, she's like, "Why are we ashamed of this? We should actually be celebrating this. This was a decision. We don't want to be tied down. We don't want to be dependent on this anymore. So let's shout it from the rooftops. Don't be preachy, but hey, this is what we're going through. And it's a good thing. And it has been a good thing. Not easy. And probably the second best decision I've ever made in my life, her being the first one.
I love that.
But it's easy to be depressed about it.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, we had to quit drinking.
Yeah.
It sucks. And it did. And times still it does. And it's like, and I have control over what my perspective is and what my attitude is. And I got myself here. So I can be a better person and have a better perspective and a better attitude and a better energy about it. I can do better and celebrate that we're doing this instead of, being depressed that we're doing this. And that was
absolutely. Yeah. And I think about my own journey, and a big piece, like with food, to your point of we just don't do those things. Same thing. I was the party of no, because I could not at that time go out and not eat everything and then want to continue to binge for the weekend. I couldn't do that. So I just didn't go. Mm-hmm. So I said no to everything, because that at that time was what I needed to do to just get through it. You'll get to a different place, right? You will figure it out how to go and enjoy life, because it's no longer going to have that power over you. And people are like, why don't you drink, right? This is, again, this whole message that we have in society with alcohol. Alcohol is sexy. It's cool. You're not fun if you don't drink. You're boring if you don't drink. You must be an alcoholic if you don't drink, or you're pregnant. No, I just don't drink. It's not my thing. Mm-hmm. It's just not my thing. I'd rather spend my money and my calories on other things. It's not that I didn't drink. I drank plenty in college, plenty. I wish I had all that money back, let me tell you. But, I think it's that we just have to keep having these conversations that it's actually weird to put poison in your body. That's what's weird. It's not weird to not put poison in your body. Why is it weird to treat your body in a nice way? And it's normal, and we should celebrate poisoning it. Correct. The message is so distorted. And, there are a million reasons why, which we don't need to get to because we know what they are.
Yeah.
But I think the more people can just talk about it and you shouldn't be ashamed about it at all. It is something to be proud of and celebrate, and to hold your head up high. Mm-hmm. And when someone's like, well, you don't have a problem, you can say, you know what, you're right, I don't. You're right. I don't have a problem.
That's right.
I'm choosing not to drink. What is the problem with that? There is no problem, right? Yeah. So how has it changed your life? Like, tell us.
Oh my gosh, that's Michelle, that's so big. Okay, well, we made notes. We made notes to reference. We wrote down takeaways, things that we didn't know when we were not sober and things that we know now that we don't drink. One of the big takeaways, I know I'm referencing my notes here, is that our perception used to be that unless you were in recovery or rehab or treatment, then you didn't have a problem. So if you were having to go to those places, if you were having to do that, then you have a problem. If you weren't doing that, then you don't have a problem. And I think that was the biggest misconception on our part, is that you can absolutely have problems that they may not be as severe, but they will get there if you don't do something about it. So you don't have to be in a recovery program to have a problem. That was one. What's one for you, maybe?
Geez, things that we learned. Well, back to some of the benefits. One of my biggest concerns was, am I fun to be around sober? I mean, will she want to hang out with me? Will my friends want to hang out with me? Will our son want to be around me? And what I learned through it is, yeah, I'm still kind of a fun guy to be around. I'm okay, and I would say that, when I look at our relationship, this decision didn't save our marriage, but in some ways it did. It wasn't that we were having difficulty. We were communicating well on and on, but on the other side of this, we're still the same people, but we're lighter, we're friendlier. I think we have more empathy. I think we're more patient. And so, back to benefits, those have been direct benefits from this. Life's just easier. Life's just easier.
We were really good communicators before. We got even better when we quit drinking. We had check-ins multiple times a day. How are you doing? What are you feeling like? And whatever was inside of you came out. And so the amount of honesty that we had about how we were feeling, what it was like to go through this, where we were struggling or were we celebrating. And, initially, there wasn't a lot of celebration initially. It was really, really, really hard. And it would have been so easy to just pick up a glass of wine or just pick up a cocktail. So we don't keep alcohol in the house anymore, but getting better at communicating. And so meaning what you say and saying what you mean, we got very, very good at that. And I feel like been a big strength for both of us.
Yeah. One of our number one family rules is tell the truth as fast as you can. And that's something we've always lived by, but we weren't living it.
Yeah.
We weren't telling the truth, not to ourselves, not to each other. And now we do. It's fun being vulnerable. It's fun understanding that you're flawed and you need some help and getting it, right? And so I think that has been a big bonus for me.
Yeah. I told my mom in a Reiki session in early November, I said, I need your help. And I don't know what that looks like, but I have a drinking problem and I just need you to help me. And so my mom in solidarity quit drinking with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
A little easier for her. She was like 2 glasses of wine a week.
I know. I'm like, Mom, how are you feeling? Have you lost so much weight? No. And she's like, well, I feel great. And I'm like, well, that's good because I still feel like crap. So that kind of support has been really, really, really great, especially from, my mom. And, as I think that there are people out there who have great relationships with their parents and there are people that don't. Being that brutally honest with your parents as an adult can be really intimidating. That was a really scary, scary thing to do, to at 40 years old, look at my mom and say, you know what, I don't have it all together. Can you just help support me through this? And she did. My mom came through in a big way. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's helped us have a lot more real conversations because we're present all the time. We're coherent all the time. And again, there is nothing wrong with being, having moments where you're a fall down, make mistakes person. At some point, all of us have made a mistake and we've all embarrassed ourselves and made choices that we wish that we hadn't or that we could take back or do over. Reveling in those mistakes, because that's where growth happens, right? If we're all perfect, then there's never room to grow. Those are really important pieces of life. And so I feel like at times it's made us a better set of parents to our kids, being able to be more real with them, be more present, a lot more mental clarity. Helping my clients has been a big deal. Expressing my own vulnerabilities and my failings and the places where, it's not easy for me to get up every day and do this, guys. I don't expect it to be easy for you. And I'm with you. I feel you. I can relate to you. I think that's been really important.
Well, I am a big believer of authenticity, and you and I connected on that years and years ago with our own food issues that you and I shared and have gone through that journey. And I just, from this side of the lens, just seeing the two of you, you are a power couple. I mean, seriously, you are the epitome of the value of a supportive partner, right? I mean, so many people, their partner does not support them for whatever reason. They don't want to be left behind. It's highlighting their own need for change. they don't have a problem, so figure it out on your own. I mean, lots of reasons, right? And yet, and maybe even if one of you has decided, you know what, that's really not my thing. I'm going to keep on drinking.
Yeah.
That would have been much harder. But my guess is you both each still would have taken care of you, but you wouldn't have grown as a couple because you can't when you're going in two different directions. So that you both have done this and you've come together and you're getting stronger as individuals, but getting stronger as a couple. And that is only going to make everything better. You are now better equipped to help your clients. You're better equipped, Michael, right, to be a leader, right? I can be a leader because look, I'm doing hard things too. And that's what leaders do. And we talk about it because that's also what leaders do. And I just think it's the more we can have these conversations, the better people we can be. And then we can be there to serve others. And, you know, Angela, you and I, so just for context, we're recording this in August 2022. So you've been just kind of a year into this journey, right? So, I mean, do you keep track? Like, when was the last day you had a drink? How many days sober? What does that look like?
We went 4 months without anything. And we took an anniversary trip to Chicago for the weekend that had been booked months in advance. We're like, oh my God, we're going to do Chicago sober. It's going to be great. And we sat down at our restaurant, and Michael must have made the reservation and told them that it was our anniversary, which he forgot. And they showed up with these little tiny glasses of champagne. And both of us, like, we look at each other. Oh my God, what do we do? And I was like, well, let's get rid of it. And so down the hatch and away it went, and we're like, oh my God, that answers a lot of questions.
We can't do this.
We can't do this. So we've tested the water maybe 5 times. We did have craft beer. We had wine. And we can't do it. So it's great to know that we still can't do it. Yeah. And it's okay, but that's where we are. So no track of days. We did initially when we started, and my friend Melissa probably got tired of it, but she never said a word. Almost every day I texted her my number of days. And getting day 7, I'm like, how will I ever get to 100 days? How will I ever get there? And one day it happened. So yeah, no alcohol in the house. We don't have it when we go out to restaurants. We've tried it a couple of times, and it's not, when we've had it, it hasn't been worth it. We're like, oh my God, how did we love this so much before? Yeah. So that has been a big surprise, being like, yeah.
And I would say, just continually looking to the next day, right? As opposed to counting how many days I've gone, I want to talk about being sober tomorrow and what that looks like. And so, yeah, we have tested the water, and luckily I think we recognized our problem early enough where that didn't send us in a spiral. If we keep testing the water, we're spiraling, right? We can justify anything. And so, and we had a conversation this morning about it, going, yeah, can't test the water anymore. And maybe there will be a day, and I'm hoping I just don't think about it. If we keep focused on the horizon and just getting to the next horizon and the next horizon, I think we'll be just fine.
I think you'll be more than just fine. I love this story. Angela, you and I got disconnected for a little bit of time, and then I was just like, well, this is dumb. I need to reach out, see what the heck's going on, because I am intuitive enough to know that when a friend of mine does not reach out and we don't connect for a while, there is a reason. And it was that conversation that you told me all of this. This is why we're having this conversation on the podcast today. So thank you both for sharing the story. I know it's kind of the first big public coming out. Yeah. So it's such an important story. I know you're going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. Any final thoughts before I officially wrap us up?
I'll say one thing and then you.
Yeah, go ahead.
To your point about it may make a difference in someone's life. There were people that we reached out to, they didn't know what an effect they had. And some friends and acquaintances, I had a friend of mine that I'm just connected to on Facebook. I haven't seen her since high school, but I followed her journey and she inspired me. And so, my hope is, if one person sees this and it has an effect, then it's worth being vulnerable. It's worth doing this. And so that was just my piece.
Yeah, we reached out to all of the silent champions that had no idea that they at some point in time had been part of our journey, and whether they had been a mentor or led by example recently or far away. I think the longest one, I hadn't spoken to this person in probably 15 years. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I've thought of you every single day for years and years and years as I tried to figure this out. I think closing thoughts, I guess, it's don't be scared of being honest with yourself, and you always have the opportunity to make another decision. And so if you get super honest and you're not really feeling great about where you're at, you have the ability to make another choice, to change that. And if it's hard, and I'm guessing it will be, your network is your network for a reason. So call them, talk to them, text them. We could not have done this if it was just the two of us. Yep. We needed external support and help to do this. And those people are the angels that walk among us when they help people get through a tough time.
Yeah. Well, you two are angels walking among us. I know that for sure. And I love that we're connected. And, even though you don't live down the road from me anymore, I mean, Peoria is not my destination, but maybe I'll make your destination one of these days. But thank you both for coming on and sharing this. And we'll put all your contact info in the show notes for people who can kind of get in touch with you if they have questions or just to find out more about what you do professionally as well, because those are ways to help people as well. So I hope everybody listening is really, absorbing some of this. And if any of it is speaking to you, I hope you do make a different choice. But I always hope you make the choice to be a better being. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.